Hello, my lovely anatomists and physiologists. We are still in chapter 6, although you might be fooled by the heading here, which is nutrition. What we're talking about in this particular video is how nutrition is involved in bone growth and development. How nutrition is involved in bone growth and development. And let's begin with something we've already talked about a little bit already. We've mentioned calcium ion as being important as an important component in the hydroxy apatite crystal. And the significance here is that it's going to make the bone very hard. So this allows the bone to be this nice protective tissue. We'll see that the calcium is going to be important then in both growth and repair of the bone, as well as, if we want to think about the modeling and the remodeling. Now, calcium we know is something that we're getting from our diet, and we think about that as primarily dairy products, but you can also derive calcium from green leafy vegetables, from broccoli, some fishes. So if you're eating sardines in a can with bones intact, some full salmon, and also some of our nuts, beans, seeds, and shellfish can also be important sources of calcium. Now we have this connection between vitamin D3 and calcium that we've talked about already. So vitamin D3 is going to be required to absorb the calcium that you're eating. So you can be eating lots of calcium, but if you don't have vitamin D3, then you're not going to be able to absorb that calcium from your diet. And when we talked about vitamin D, we did this in our chapter 5. So go ahead and take a look at that review there. Remember, we're getting it from a healthy integumentary system, and we're getting it produced as a result of ultraviolet radiation. Now here we're going to be talking about vitamin D in a different form. So we're going to have kind of two names. And the other name that we're going to be talking about is calcitriol, and that is like its hormone name. So vitamin D is a name when we talk about it from a nutrition perspective, and calcitriol is the name when we talk about the mechanism of action in the body. So we'll be connecting that as we go through. Vitamin K is going to be, again, important from our diet. We're getting it also from green leafy vegetables. Vitamin K is going to support bone mineralization. When we talk about mineralization, we're talking about the formation of those hydroxyapatite crystals, which I see I have as typo crystal. Oh my gosh, what is the problem here? When we talk about the hydroxyapatite crystal, remember we talked about calcium phosphate and calcium carbonate, but then also the incorporation of magnesium, which we're going to mention, fluoride, which we're going to mention, hydroxide and sulfate, which we don't have on this list. So vitamin K is supporting the mineralization, all of those components of the hydroxyapatite crystal. And we see too that it may help regulate bone growth. When we're talking about the mineralization, we have two components listed here as part of our nutrition, magnesium and fluoride. Now, these are going to be trace elements, meaning that we eat and need small quantities of these. So magnesium is something that's a trace element. We have very little of it in our body compared with other types of elements. Even while we have only trace elements in our body, 60% of that is going to be found in the bone. So that's just helping to emphasize that this is going to be an important component, an important mineral component of the bone structure. Fluoride we see also helps to stabilize and strengthen the bone minerals. So in a similar way that we see it functioning to help strengthen and stabilize our tooth enamel, we see it here helping to strengthen and stabilize our bones. And then the last for us to look at here is this omega-3 fatty acid. And what we'll see here is that we've talked about it before as being involved in reducing inflammation, across body tissues. But here we may also see that it may help enhance production of new osseous tissue, that's new bone tissue. Okay, so that's it for nutrition. Next up, conversation on hormones. Stay tuned, and as always, take care of yourselves and each other.